Hello everyone and welcome back to APWC. I watched Rebel Moon Part 1 and Part 2 Director's Cut and decided to review it. This video will help you to take an informed decision whether to watch the Director's Cut or avoid it.
कितने अच्छे हो तुम और कितने अच्छे हैं तुम्हारे उसूल.
So without wasting any time, let's begin.
Ready.
The story is pretty simple. It is about the colonization that the royal family does on various planets, including the moon Welt, and how Korra goes around and creates a team to find noble Atticus and his army of soldiers, who are destroying civilization in order to showcase their power and get food.
तू समझा? हाँ. नहीं, तू समझा नहीं.
Whilst watching, you will definitely find many similarities to Star Wars, Seven Samurai, Bright, Firefly, and Warhammer 40k. The director's cut runtime for Part 1 is 3 hours 24 minutes, and Part 2 is 2 hours 53 minutes, which adds up to 6 hours 17 minutes. What the f? Whereas for that of the original Part 1 was 2 hours 14 minutes, and Part 2 was 2 hours 2 minutes. So I can understand why some people felt that it was boring, as some plot points were stretched and felt like an unnecessary inclusion to the story. Also, I had not watched the original cut as I knew that an R-rated director's cut will be released soon. So why waste time watching a smaller version?
Oh, Adi, you're so clever! Thank you.
For everyone wondering why did Netflix release the first two parts and then decided to release the extended R-rated director's cut? Well, this was a no-brainer. So basically, in $166 million, Zack Snyder gave 4 films. Part 1, A Child of Fire. Part 2, The Scargiver. Part 1 Director's Cut, Chalice of Blood. And Part 2 Director's Cut, Curse of Forgiveness. And as a viewer, you fall under 3 categories. You have watched Part 1 and Part 2. You have directly watched Part 1 and Part 2 Director's Cut. You have watched Part 1 and Part 2 and also watched the Director's Cut. Still, in any case, it's a win-win situation for Netflix.
Do you understand?
Part 2 ends on a note wherein you see that there is place for another sequel, which may never see the light of day. Also, the 2 gratuitous sex scenes felt a bit unnecessary, but they were shot in the most beautiful, profound and authentic way possible. So I'll let that slide.
That's what she said.
Zack Snyder, a director who is known for his dark tone and who is capable of delivering hits like 300, Watchmen, Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, he has tapped into another universe to showcase his prowess. I quite recently rewatched Zack Snyder's Justice League, and even after 3 years, it blows my mind. And I'm not a Zack Snyder fan, still, I believe that he has immense potential to create storylines in the darkest and grittiest way possible, which is not everyone's cup of tea. Something similar to what Prashant Neel has mastered with KGF and Salar. Some people might genuinely have trouble watching such films, but I don't have a problem with that. In fact, I hate it when the movies utilize the entire color palette and everything is just too fancy and pink. Also, Zack Snyder's most beloved slow motion, which we have seen in 300, Sucker Punch, Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, Zack Snyder's Justice League, Army of the Dead, and also in Rebel Moon. Sofia Boutella plays the character of Cora, and I genuinely liked her as the protagonist. The way she has performed the action sequences, oof, what a beauty. I think it's safe to say that
I think I'm in love.
औरत का चक्कर बाबू भैया, औरत का चक्कर बहुत बेकार होता है.
remaining cast includes Michael Hussman, who plays Gunner and frankly was a great character, but his writing was a bit off. Then we have Ed Skrein as Atticus Noble. Y'all might know him as Francis from Deadpool 1. Well, he has become way more skinny and ripped.
Really lean, sinewy and vascular, and making it strange and weird and scary.
Donna Bay as Nemesis, a cyborg swordmaster. Jimon Honshu as Titus.
And that's General Titus.
Ray Fisher as Darien Bloodaxe. Charlie Hunnam as Kai, whose character writing was brilliant and pretty unpredictable, or was I not paying attention? Stas Nair as Tarak, who occasionally reminded me of Matthew McConaughey but is super ripped and chiseled. And the list continues. Apart from all that, I liked how they created Jimmy's character, who is voiced by Anthony Hopkins. With respect to the cast, I think everyone has done a great job, keeping in mind that most of the film must have been shot on green screen. Also, the amount of hard work everyone has done in the gym is quite visible, and Zack Snyder doesn't shy away from revealing that. Whether it was in 300 with the Spartans, DC's Watchmen, Man of Steel, or Batman vs Superman, where Batman trains. The above gym statement is true for all. He himself is quite well built, if I can say so.
Never set foot on the wrong side of history.
Verdict. I am giving Rebel Moon 3 out of 5 stars. For Zack Snyder's vision, sci-fi space setup, heavy VFX, interesting cast, and a passable storyline which seems complex but isn't. I don't think this deserves the negative reviews it got, keeping the director's cut in mind. The only problem I have is the aspect ratio. They could have used the IMAX format and that could have resulted in an immersive experience. Ideally, this should have been a series of 8 episodes, which would have helped the audience to connect with the storyline easily. Still, give it a chance and maybe you won't regret. Maybe.
My mother told me then, a boy doesn't become a man until his father dies, and a prince becomes a king.
That's it for this video, guys. Comment on your thoughts on Rebel Moon Part 1 and Part 2 Director's Cut, and I'll see you in the next one. और हाँ, अगर वीडियो अच्छा लगे तो सब्सक्राइब कर देना दोस्तों. मिलते हैं अगली बार. Till then, bye.